Now, as far as leadership styles, I'm going to give you two choices to choose from. The first one I would describe as externally imposed motivation, also known as micromanaging, also known as being a drill instructor. Who here has seen the movie, God, why am I blanking on this movie? Yes, thank you. Thank you, Rudy. Whew! He's got the answers. All right, Full Metal Jacket, the Marine Corps drill instructor, the most awesome movie character in the history of movie characters. Who knows the story behind that? He was supposed to be the technical advisor, and the actor, he just couldn't get it. And they're like, hey, dude, you're in. You're in, coach. Put me in. And he just went in there, and he was himself. And people think that that's the way that the military is. And that is the way the military is for your first couple months while you're in boot camp, because you're transitioning from a society that I would personally describe as me, to an environment that needs to be predicated on we. And so what you need to do is be broken down a little bit. And they do that via that externally imposed discipline. And another word for that is called micromanagement. Do not be a micromanager. Does anybody here know a good litmus test for whether or not you are a micromanager? Who here manages a team of people right now? Okay. Do you know how to determine whether or not you're a micromanager? It sounds like this. Somebody who works for you comes up to you and says, what do you want me to do? That's all you have to do to figure out whether or not you're a micromanager. You have to listen to your people. If they come to you and they say, hey, boss, what's going on? What do you want me to do? You're a micromanager. Your people are looking to you to tell them what to do. They're not proactively thinking. They're reactively responding to your guidance. And in the SEAL teams, when somebody would come up to me and say, hey, man, what do you want me to do? I'd say, I want you to get out of my face and never ask me that question again. And come to me as solutions, not questions. Because what I want is people coming up to me saying, hey, this is what I see going on. This is what I think we can do to fix it. And I, as a leader, can lift my head up and kind of array all the pieces on the board and look around and say, hey, you know what? That's a good idea. Go execute. Or, you know what? That's a great idea. Make this, this, and this for a change and go execute. They go do their job. I don't do it for them. And I can lead and move pieces around the board. Don't be a micromanager. The biggest reason is if you are a micromanager, you're breeding micromanagers. And micromanagers suck. The problem with micromanaging and why it sucks is that you geographically have to be present. If you leave and you are used to being over your people's shoulder, telling them what to do, telling them how to do it, and how fast that they need to get it done, the second that you leave, I guarantee you they're updating their Facebook status. I know this because in boot camp, when you're getting yelled at and the drill instructor, the perfect example of a micromanager is yelling in your face, my only thought is, what is the minimum amount of effort I need to put in to make this person yell at the person next to me? That's it. Micromanagement, you should think in your head, minimum amount of effort required so that the boss leaves you alone, and then if you show up sick, or if you show up sick, that's a terrible example. If you don't show up because you're sick, God knows what your people are doing because they're so used to having you tell them what to do that nothing's going to get accomplished. That's pushing your people, externally imposing discipline. The other side of that coin is pulling your people. And by that, I mean inspiring. That's how you need to lead. I equate inspiration with maximum effort. And I do that because I have had the great fortune of being surrounded by some of the best leaders that I think this country has to offer. And I will say this, the best leaders I've ever been around were in the SEAL teams. Where do you think the worst leaders I've ever been around were? In the SEAL teams. It's a swath of society. We have to take the good with the bad, and I think it's important that we're honest. We have some people in the SEAL teams who suck and don't deserve their try. They're still there. Fortunately, they're the minority, and they don't define the career field, but they're there. But the amazing people that I was around, can think of one concrete example of a man that I haven't seen in almost 10 years. And I still base the way I act and the way I make decisions to this day in ways that would live up to the example that he set for me. I haven't seen the dude in 10 years, and he's still having impact on my life. There's never anything that he said that inspired me. It was the things that he did and the combination of those two things. Has everybody had that example of a leader around them where You'll put in so much effort, more than you possibly could. Often people will say, I'm going to put in 110%. No, you won't, because that doesn't exist. 100% is maximum. You know what I'm talking about, right? Don't let people use terms over 100%. It's a digression, I know, but it's important, all right? We need to stand for something, people, and that's what you should stand for. Think about how hard you will work to not let down somebody that inspires you. Be that person, not the person that sits over the shoulders and barks orders. Leadership is a skill, guys. It has to be practiced. It has to be practiced. So I'm going to give for you an example. And the example that I like to give, because it highlights it well, is how you get your driver's license in the U.S. So you guys tell me if this is a good idea. You turn 16, but you've never even set foot into a car. But it's your 16th birthday, and it's your right to go get your driver's license. Your parents don't have a car readily available, but your neighbor's got a manual transmission Ford F-150. Awesome. Let's go. Let's go down to the DMV. Having never driven a car, a manual transmission vehicle, you fill out your paperwork, you go up to the window, and you attempt your driver's test. Anybody want to give me the odds on passing? I don't know if there's a number less than 0, but I think it would be somewhere near that. Why does that person fail the driver's test? Perhaps because they don't know how to drive, right? So let's talk about what learning to drive actually is. You find a mentor, and that mentor takes you to a vehicle and it's like, hey, this is how you get in the thing. This is where you sit. This is where the buttons are. These are the pedals. Here's how you turn the windshield wiper on. Where do you start driving a car, most people? The parking lot, yes. My dad would hit golf balls, and I would drive around and hit things in the parking lot. It was a fun game. After the parking lot, where do you go? Rural country roads, right? If you live there, or somewhere that's got slower roads. And what do you have with you, though? You have somebody sitting in the right seat, so if you get to the boundary or the depth of your experience and you're over your head, what do? You draft off of them, and you slowly gain more experience time after time after time until you're on the freeway. Then finally, you're done with the freeway, you go to the DMV, you take the test because you have the requisite knowledge and skill, and what happens? Hopefully you pass the test. At least you're prepared for the test. Does everybody agree that that's a solid strategy for getting your driver's license? Yes. Why don't people apply that lesson to being a leader? It's the same type of test. The consequences are just more dire, in my opinion. The reason I feel that people don't use that analogy is that they confuse position with leadership. A lot of people, if you want to go into the corporate world, they want to rise up and they want to get into the C-suite, CEO, CIO, CMO, fill in the blank. If you do the basic math, there's not enough C-suite positions for everybody to have one. So what I'm telling you is you may never get to the leadership position that you want to have. And then where does that put you? You're completely screwed if you take the approach that I think most people take. They think, I'm not in the leadership position that I want to be in, so I don't need to think like a leader right now. They're going to wait until they have their driver's license test to figure out whether or not they have the requisite knowledge, skill, and ability. And sometimes they are successful, but I would say the vast majority of the time, they fail. You can lead by position. You can be a CMO and a CEO, and that's great if you have that position and you're close to getting that position. I hope that everybody gets that position, and I hope that you conduct yourself in a manner that's befitting that position. But what if you never do? What does that give, or what does that say to everybody else? To me, that's awesome, because everybody else has the opportunity every single day of your life to still lead, not by position, but by example. There is no excuse to not starting to study for your driver's license test right this moment as a leader. If you wait until you get yourself into a position that requires leadership and you've never thought about yourself as a leader until that moment, and you've never practiced how you're going to conduct yourself in emotionally compromising situations or time-compressed environments, you're going to fail. Positional leadership is great. If you don't have that, set the example for every single person around you and take your boat crew from last place as far as you can get to first. Practice now so you're prepared.